Welcome to Brainstorm MTG. I'm ELD, and this is Fast Effect Double Speed Magic the Gathering. And this time it is a vintage from ELD Vintage Open number 2. And Dr. Rich Shea on PO leads out with Mystic Remora, Mana Crypt, and Sensei's Divining Top. So that Mana Crypt threatens to do on average 1.5 points of damage per turn. But that's going to keep that Mystic Remora alive. And James plowing forward into it with a Gitaxian Probe, really not wanting to give Rich 3 or 4 or more turns with that Mystic Remora. He's going to do the quick check with the Probe, see if he can blitz past it, and he sees a Force of Will along with a Paradoxical Outcome. So Force plus blue card means stop for James, who is on Oath here. A second land comes down, and with Sensei's Top, Rich is going to have a lot of selection here. This is a real nightmare, but James now has Library of Alexandria, may be able to pull ahead in card advantage, at least card quality. One of the issues that we're going to see here is James is not going to be able to convert his card advantage into a board presence. Typically with Library, you're able to tap to draw into Accelerants. Of course, your Moxes, Soul Ring, potentially Mana Crypt, and the like, and be able to deploy those onto the board. And we see a Voltaic Key, which threatens to bury things even further. So Voltaic Key can actually combo with Sensei's Divining Top here. Top will be able to tap to draw. You'll target it with Voltaic Key, untap top, tap it again, and the net result is you will end up putting top on top of your library, drawing it into your hand, and then drawing another card. So you're actually going to net a card every turn with that. So James in a damned if you do, damned if you don't spot here. Jams a Lotus. Rich draws a card. That is getting cracked for green for Oath. Now Rich does not have hard cast Force of Will mana up, so there is at least that. He is fetching. And we'll see if James is ready to force back and what Rich draws off of Mystic Remora. He also has that Sensei's Top and that Voltaic Key for the top trick. So there are a lot of cards to find a second copy of Force of Will here. But it looks like he actually just lets it go. He lets the Oath of Druids resolve. So now Orchard comes down. Very interesting line here. Rich correctly reading that James would be able to defend. He would rather save his Force of Will to defend the win instead of trying to play defense against that Oath, and it looks like this is going to have to be the turn. I do believe we saw a Demonic Tutor in his hand that would go get the Time Vault. Combos so nicely with Voltaic Key. That does equal infinite turns. One of the things not allowed in Legacy. And now we see a Paradoxical Outcome targeting these 4 non-land permanents. And we've got a Force of Will pitching Dak. This threatens to draw 4 cards and generate some serious mana here for Rich. He forces back, pitching Repeal. And he's drawing off of the top. I believe he has a draw for turn here. Yes, there's the draw for turn. Sapphire. And that is the roll for the Mana Crypt, even though it was not in play during its trigger resolution. Removing it does not stop you from having to roll. And we see Lotus, Voltaic Key, a ton of mana. Shows the Demonic Tutor. That's enough for James. So Dr. Shea taking down game number 1 here versus Oath. Showing the power of Mystic Remora and Paradoxical Outcome. Mystic Remora was very popular for a short time in the Thirst for Knowledge meta. A very powerful response to the rest of the control decks, skewing very, very artifact heavy. For a long period of time in Vintage, the control decks were not running the full suite of mana. It's really been an evolution throughout the history of the format. As we stand now, the blue decks are about as busted as they've ever been. They are supporting the full suite of cards like Mana Crypt, Voltaic Key combos with Mana Vault, Mana Crypt to actually generate mana, so it actually is a quasi additional piece of acceleration. Tolarian Academy really never been stronger, while it's been a singleton in these lists here. So we're going to see what James can do to combat this extremely fast mana and explosive card advantage in the terms of paradoxical outcome. Oath, on the other hand, a bit lower to the ground, able to win off of just 2 mana. Just getting down a Oath with an Orchard is going to allow you to cheat monsters into play. We're talking Gristlebrand is usual suspect #1, but to be honest, there's a ton of variety in Oathless. We've seen people running things like Inferno Titan, trying to stay a little bit lower to the ground and more combat-based, wanting to be able to actually hard cast their Oath of Druids targets, and that is a valid strategy when you're talking about cards like Grafdigger's Cage in the format. There builds with Auriok Salvagers where you Oath, and then of course if you hit your Salvagers, there's a chance that you're milling your Lotus into the graveyard if you haven't used it already. And that is a very powerful combo, generating infinite mana with Salvagers. You pay 1 and a white to return your Lotus, and then you're able to net a mana every single iteration. After creating enough white mana, you can go through for all of the other colors if necessary and go completely infinite. And then with cards like Nile Spellbomb, you can draw your entire deck. So there are a lot of tricks on both sides of the table, a lot of possible busted plays. We'll see who comes up with one in this game. It looks like, is that a Sylvan Library there for James? Mox, Emerald, and Jet. Volcanic wanted the Forbidden Orchard, doesn't have it, but he does have a turn 1 Oath and Ancestral. Mental Misstep snagging Rich's Voltaic Key. That is actually denying him a little bit of mana off of the Tolarian Academy and stopping him from getting Metalcraft. But the real 1 casting cost threat there was the Ancestral. So that misstep, perhaps finding the wrong target. He does have Stony Silence in hand. So Voltaic Key perhaps not as much of a threat. We'll see if this ends up being a significant misplay or not. There's the Forbidden Orchard. And we've got to like floating some mana and getting a Stony Silence down. There's a Spirit Token. Force pitching Paradoxical Outcome. Really feeling some pain there. Ancestral certainly contributing to the strength of Rich's hand, potentially being the only reason he was able to force that. 2 mana off of Tolarian Academy and counting his graveyard. Looks like we're going to see a Treasure Cruiser, a Dig Through time here. Playing a Mox Opal just to get it into the bin. And there's a Dig Through time. Now, Paradoxical Outcome is going to get non-token, non-land permanents. So that is not going to be able to alleviate the dangerous situation here with Oath of Druids and that Spirit Token, which was created by Forbidden Orchard. Jet into Grafdigger's Cage, giving him Metalcraft and a Caracas on top of it. Answers all over the place here. James choosing not to activate Oath. Now, the way that works with Oath of Druids is you reveal until you reveal a creature. Put that creature into the battlefield and the rest of the cards into your graveyard. Stony Silence does hit this time off of a Tundra, so not making any additional spirits, which is useful. Those spirit tokens would eventually gang up for the win. So we've got some bottlenecked mana on both sides. And repealing Stony Silence, that may be the beginning of the end here. Rich has a full grip. He is resolved. Dig through time. You've got to think that this is an absolutely terrible spot for James. Paradoxical outcome targeting 4 permanents, including a Sensei's Top. That's going to be 5 more cards in hand, and this is getting out of hand very, very rapidly here. Rich ahead in every conceivable category now. Building a lethal storm count very rapidly. Gonna go ahead and make his land drop there with Underground Sea. Sensei's Divining Top. Loading some more mana. Another paradoxical outcome. So much mana, so many storm copy, so much storm. A Mind's Desire or a Tendrils would be just fine here. There's a Demonic Tutor. And he's going to grab Time Walk, indicating that his hand has the goods to wrap it up on the second turn. Has to discard a fetch land and a few other legit cards here. Sensei's Top. A mana neutral play here. It does pump the Academy. The cost of 1 mana. Grafdigger's Cage, same deal. Mox Opal and company teaming up for another paradoxical outcome, and this is just an absolute pounding here. So much card advantage. Almost a little ridiculous that the game is not completely over at this point. 2 cards going back, fetching away the 2, I can't even say worse cards. He has so many cards in hand that they were likely cards that were reasonable to draw again later. He's possibly going to actually be discarding down end of turn, so he might keep his worst cards in hand to discard. That's how out of control this is. No, looks like he's going to get down to 7. So many monk tokens to go along with that spirit. Laying bare the fistful of counters with a double Grafdigger's Cage in play. And James, no choice but to extend the hand there and call it after just an absurd amount of card advantage there as Rich takes it down in 2 straight. That's all for this one. If you enjoyed the video, please help grow the channel by subscribing. You'll be notified when we upload new videos like Fast Effect, Double Speed Magic with commentary, or Untapped, our raw tournament gameplay. Thanks for watching.